Good afternoon to everyone, or good late morning, depending on where in the country or the world you are. It's Nick Perro, Fred Pogue, and our special guest, Fred Wellman, back for Vet Talk. Um, and I think there's some things to talk about today. Uh,
But before we get started, so Nick, that intro you heard was Nick's original piece of music, and it made me think, of those old Civil War letters from Ken Burns that we're gonna now have like National Guardsmen, sending emails to. It's like, dearest my love, I went to the Chipotle today for lunch, and I could tell the girl behind the counter didn't like me, and so I didn't get a full scoop of steak.
I got a half steak today.
I only I know they shorted me. Damn this occupation of DC.
Remember when we did the ones about that from Charlottesville? That one guy. Please send my send my waifu pillow.
Oh,
Oh,
the
so the orange turd has occupied DC. He's federalized everything he could touch. Wow, stupendous.
So
Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about that, Fred. Actually, good morning or good afternoon, Fred. Welcome. How are you
Yes.
today?
Great to be
Before
here.
we
It's
get
still
all pissed
still morning in
off,
the Midwest. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna let Fred take that away. I'll back you up because I'm just like
you're just a guy.
yeah, I'm incensed by it. I'm just like, really? Okay, yeah, like, fair enough, Donald. I, you must be all over the Epstein files, bro. At this point, like,
Well, yeah, exactly. That's why I said yesterday. I was like, man, whatever's in those files is really bad. Obviously, because it's so clear that they're doing what they can to cover it up. And again, everyone. One of the things I say a lot is, people are like, oh, this is a distraction. Well, it is, but we can still focus on it. It doesn't mean we don't have to. It doesn't mean we can. And it is. I mean, they are obviously trying to distract us from the bigger issues they're afraid of. But it's a pretty big distraction. I have friends in DC who are really scared right now. They're nervous about what's happening and what's going to happen, and they should be. Um, it's kind of like LA though. That when they deploy, a lot of my friends are like, oh my God, it's going to be a military city. I'm like, really not enough of them. I mean, I mean, he federalized the police, and he sent in what 800 troops. I mean, okay. I mean, we had as I point out in Baghdad at the height of the surge, we had 28,500 troops, and we still didn't occupy the entire city. So it's not, so you're not going to see, and you notice they had. I know you guys saw the pictures, but there was like literally five DEA agents like patrolling the reflecting pond in front of is reflecting pool in front of the Lincoln Memorial. Okay, there's been literally 0% crime on the mall.
Yeah,
Like zero, like zero. So they sent five DEA agents to wander around on the National Mall, which tells you everything you need to know about what they're doing. And this is all, but this is symbolic. This is just, hey, look what we're doing. Look at me, I'm tough. And so, it's easy to freak out about these things. A lot of people are saying, oh, this is the test for martial law. I get it. But if you've been actually part of a martial law force, which I have, I mean, literally, I mean, I liked Iraq so much, I invaded it twice. That this isn't enough troops to implement martial law. So, is it if this is a test of martial law, it's not going to go well because no matter what they say, 800 troops is going to occupy the city of Washington D.C. Effectively. It's going to be it's a very big show of force to show how manly. I mean, I wrote a piece yesterday about how you can see Hexet who's like wired that Prescott like this is like his dream come true like he's like dude
he's
man
getting
get
off
her
on it in
get
a
her oh yeah
weird
it was like
way.
oh god I'm just creeped out by how fucking turned on you are by this. It's like dude just simmer down. It's like we all want to see your weird excitement about sending troops to Washington DC. The fucking guy's a freak, but that's the thing. I mean 800 it sounds again I try not to be sky is falling guy. Yeah, it's a serious thing they're doing. It is outrageous that he's federalized the police when the city is not even in the top 10 of crime. However, 800 National Guardsmen is not going to take over DC. It's not even going to take over. Honestly, fuck, I don't think they could take over Capitol Hill with 800. I mean, I'd love. I wonder if we could look up. Maybe our fans could look up how many troops they sent after January 6th, but after January 6th to secure the inauguration.
Yeah,
Right. So think about that. Like how many troops you think about it. I mean, how many troops did they send? Probably a couple thousand
that's
to
what I was thinking.
secure,
Yeah, I think it was like
yeah,
two
to
thousand
secure
or
the
something.
National
Yeah,
Mall just for the inauguration. Okay. We're talking Washington, D.C. It's a couple of miles bigger than just the National Mall. So I don't know. It's easy to freak out, but also know that Hegseth and Trump and all they're looking for is that video. Everything they do, you guys, is for video, right? I mean, and this is, by the way, because I'm that guy, this is where our friends on our side of the political fence fail. They don't understand that if you do something and don't film it and or talk about it, nobody fucking knows you did it, right? And
yep.
that's where Biden's numbers tanked because he was doing these great things, but going to Rehoboth Beach every weekend, you know, So but these guys understand the power of the visual. They love the video circulating showing five DEA agents strolling down the National Mall because that sends the message. Look at us, we're taking over DC, and you and I know, yeah, it's fucking horseshit.
Yeah,
And
so
and
I
see,
I did look it up too. Is they for Joe Biden's inauguration, 25,000 guard troops were authorized. First,
What?
wow, twenty five
25,000.
thousand.
Yeah,
What?
25,000 guard troops were authorized to guard the National Mall for the inauguration in 2021.
Did they
Wow.
dress right? Dress and like
I don't know,
around
but
the horn
whatever
normal?
happened, like you didn't see them. It wasn't all over the news because Joe Biden doesn't never made a big deal out of
No.
anything, which was part of the problem. Um, was he was quiet on everything. Um,
Wow. That's
is
a
I guess
shocking number.
Yeah, I guess my question more, I have a question on it for you around this is less around the like troop movement and like troop authorizations. Do you think that this could be more of a prelude to like the DHS and security, like Flock Security and Palantir and those groups sort of testing the internal waters of like a police state? Because DC is the easiest target to do that in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think so in a lot of ways, but I don't know. I try to stay in my lane of what I actually know, what I don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that you could make a case that the contracts from a Palantir, the things they're doing are there. But in the end, it's a lot of flailing about too. I mean, it is just a silly distraction to keep us from thinking about the bigger issue. The issues of him is that Donald Trump is in the Epstein file, and
I don't think
and
it's he's
so
in, I think he is the Epstein file.
yeah, I think he is. I mean, if it's true that they had to get 100,000 mentions of him out of it, that's somebody said it best on my social media. They said, I don't have that many pictures with my grandma and me together as he does with Epstein.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, I'm trying to collect kids' pictures from my childhood right now. I don't got that many pictures. So I really do think that these are things that were in Project 2025, but those who plan these things aren't people who've ever planned occupations or surveillance states. It is a massive machine. What the Soviet Union built, what North Korea has built, what other authoritarian countries have built are massive enterprises. I mean, that's the problem with this whole plan. A police state is the entire state. I mean, a third or half of your citizens are surveilling the other third, or two-thirds or half, right? I mean, it's not. It's so in this way. As much as we're freaked out that he's turning authoritarian, yeah, it'll be the ways he's doing it. It's going to be the intimidation tactics, using the law, using getting people to give him money, like a billion, like the stuff with Nvidia, which is fucking insane, gangsters. So
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing is more of a gangster style authoritarianism than necessarily a police state. And it goes to, I think Nick, you and I have talked about, or at least we probably shared the same thing, is what will civil war look like, right? In
Mhm.
America, we go, oh, we're gonna have civil war. And I've been arguing for years that a civil war in America isn't going to be like 1861. It's going to be much
No.
more like Iraq 2004. It's going to be, right. It's an
Hmm.
insurgency would be a better term for it, right?
Yep.
So I
Because
think when we
the
talk
state
about
with the highest voter base for Trump was California. Like people
right,
forget that the most MAGA voters were out of California.
right. So this paranoia of, oh, this is it. This is going to be the occupations of our cities. With who? I mean, who the fuck? I mean, I don't know. You can run the numbers to your blue in the face. There isn't enough people in federal law enforcement or the military to occupy shit. I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, we had to mobilize most of the United States fucking army and reserves in 2005, 2004 to, on a rotation basis. Um, so I get it. I understand people want to freak out because it's cool, but I'm just not that guy. I think they're up to something
Mhm.
else. I think you're right.
Well,
The surveillance state, gangsterism, intimidation, propaganda, but I don't know. That's
well,
me.
and to your point, Fred, like, I mean, that's kind of what Petraeus did. Was he basically just built a bunch of walls because it's like they didn't have
Right,
enough people,
right,
to
right,
say completely police Baghdad. So it was like,
right.
all right, we're just going to build walls and we're
Yeah,
going to separate people, and there it is, and that's how we're going to stop. We're
yeah.
going to stop all the insurgency
Well,
and
yeah, we
violence
stop
and
it from
everything else.
flowing, and then the ink spot strategy, right? We secure a neighborhood, then we secure the next neighborhood, then we secure the larger neighborhood, then the city, and then from there we secure the next, and we connect them. Secure. That was a major enterprise with millions of people. I mean, you forget how many that. Again, my job was building the Iraqi security force. I worked for Petraeus. I was Petraeus's
Oh wow.
spokesman.
Yeah.
And so I know all about how we built the Iraqi security forces because I was part of it. I was the advisor of the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Interior. So I know exactly how we did it. And it wasn't possible with just US forces. We had to build Iraqi
No.
security forces. And so for somebody like me who's lived through an occupation, as much as it sucked and wasn't what I signed up for, that's not what I see. What I do see is gangsterism, thuggery, intimidation, truly sort of this oligarchical control aspect of it, as opposed to a Soviet style or Hungary, even Hungary struggles to really shut people up. So they can
Mm.
make you scared, and that's what they want. They want people like us who speak out to be
Mhm.
scared. They want us to shut up. They want us to say, "Oh, I won't run for office because I'm too scared," or whatever it may be. That's that thuggery as opposed to sort of a police state. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense.
and going back to what you were talking about with the five guys walking around, the reflecting pool or whatever,
Yeah,
that's actually an old strategy
yeah,
for the Republicans. Like a lot of people. So Newt Gingrich, when C-SPAN first put in a camera that was just over Congress, right over the House, and it faced right in the well. Newt Gingrich used to go in and he would give these like bombastic speeches, right? And everyone used to think like, "Oh my God, he's really laying the wood to the Democrats. Woo, look at that!" Nobody's in there.
right.
It's just him.
It's the
And so
camera.
because all C-SPAN was when it started out was it was just a live feed, essentially for 24 hours a day. And Newt would go in there and he'd deliver some bombastic speech. He's the only one. And so
Hmm.
to your point, they know it's absolutely effective, right?
Right.
For us, we're like, this is stupid, but then to the other people, like to people that really aren't thinking it through and kind of, they're like, oh my gosh, look at that. Oh, ooh, that's a show of force. It's like it's 5 DEA agents. It's a reflecting pool.
Right. Right. Look at board their skulls. And then there's the next faction, you guys. Our troops, you guys, Nick, they don't want to fucking do this. I'm sorry. They just
No.
don't. Okay.
No.
It's like,
No.
I was laughing because Hex is like, our troops are on the border and they shut it down. They're sitting in their striker vehicles, just staring
Hoping to
into
go
the fucking
home.
space. They're fucking miserable. They would much rather be home playing Xbox with their kids or chilling out with the family. Meanwhile, the wife's running the house. She's pissed because they're not getting combat pay.
Nope.
They're getting like they're not even getting TDY. I bet they're eating fucking
Oh,
MREs,
yeah.
Yep.
in a striker vehicle in 100-degree weather, 100-degree heat. So he can say, look
No
at
AC.
the troops hate this shit. That's why they ruined this parade. My favorite part of the parade was the troops didn't get the message they're supposed to look scary.
Yep.
Right? I mean, they're like, yo. I mean, my favorite picture on earth that I will use the rest of my life is I think it was a striker or a tank, who knows, one of the vehicles going. You guys remember the scene, the guy that they're going in front of Trump and Hexeth, and the guy in the command hatch is doing the heart thing to the camera, you gotta look it up. And he's like, "Oh, we love you," like a fucking teenager. And Trump and Hexeth behind, like, you know. It was
It's
he our God, we're not thugs. They want us to be, but the average American soldier. I used to call. I had a blog. My original blog was called "A Heavily Armed Tourist," right? Because essentially that's what we were, right? I was like, right? I mean,
kind of, yeah.
like it's like I used to. I remember the picture of the guys crossing the bridge into Baghdad. They're ducking out. I guarantee fucking to you that one of those soldiers said, "Dude, this is it. Dude, get a picture." Yeah, like, because that's who we are. So they want us to go out and be like all thuggy and shit. But your average American soldier is the dude down the street from you. We are you. The
Yeah,
volunteer force is you. Okay,
like
and you're gonna get the kids are doing, yo, I love America, and they don't. I guarantee. A guy who signs up for the DEA has no fucking interest in strolling down the mall. I mean, maybe look at the girls that are running by. That I believe. But for the most part, the most dangerous thing on the National Mall is a fucking angry duck, or maybe the stray Canadian goose, because those fucking Canadian geese, they're
oh my God, they're
assholes.
Oh my
mean.
god, yeah, dude.
They're mean.
Don't mess with
You
Canadian
know?
geese, bro.
Don't mess with swans. Like if you've ever been near a
Oh
swan,
no!
those
Oh
guys,
God,
like
no!
they're
Oh
assholes.
God,
So
no!
I
Terrible.
was stationed at JBLM when I was, which is
Oh,
Joint Base Lewis McChord,
I was just
for
there.
those who are not.
I was there last
Um,
weekend.
oh, awesome. Beautiful place. So on base is Madigan Army Medical Center. It's the hospital. And so when my wife was giving birth to our son, our daughter was young at the age at that time, so she was running around at the pond at the hospital. They have a beautiful pond with a mating pair of swans that live there.
Oh.
And my daughter got too close to the swan, and so we have pictures of her being chased by this damn bird. She's like 3 years old, just running down the pond. Oh my God, those
That's
Yeah.
freaking
hilarious.
birds are the
I tell you,
worst.
okay, geese, we hate them here. My fiance is obsessed with Canadian geese. We have a pond near us, and she's like, and by the way, hot tip: green laser at night scares the shit of Canadian geese. Like for some reason, it's their fight or flight kicks in, they fly away. But this has nothing to do with the topic of the
No,
show.
it doesn't,
So
but it's
you guys are
good.
gonna learn. You've invited me on
Well,
twice now, and
maybe
you're gonna
maybe we
learn.
could try
And
that on
whatever
like
script you
Hegseth.
had, just forget it
Nope.
because it's not
Yeah,
gonna
It's
let's
like
happen.
a
try it on
You know
D&D
Hegseth.
why?
show.
Because I'm a guest. It's like I see a couple of
Yep.
my fans that watch my show. They're used to more of like a much more constricted Fred because I'm on my own script. But nah, man, this is me on a much
Nah,
smaller script.
I watch your show all the time, Fred. I know what those panels look like.
Oh man, I love the panel. It's my favorite thing I
Oh,
do.
Too Late to Cancel is so much fun. I'm a plug
Right.
Fred show. If you don't watch on Sunday mornings, you definitely have to. Fred comes on YouTube and Substack now for Too Late to Cancel, and it's freaking awesome. It's so much fun.
Good stuff. Yeah,
But
100%.
getting back into like the actual like meat of some of the shit that's going on in the
Yeah.
world, especially veteran related issues. One of the big things I wanted to talk to you about was the article you put out last week, um, around the mental health stuff that
Yeah.
they're doing and the
Yeah.
changes to the mental health policies. Then how it ties into the removal of service members who are trans and
Yeah.
their rights, because it all comes together on tearing down veterans and service members who are
Yeah.
not in their Christian, the whatever, like crusader mold.
Right.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know you have some. Um, and how do you think we can keep pushing back against this?
Well, so previous life, I was a professional veterans advocate for 10 years. I started my own firm in 2010 called Scoutcoms, wonderful little firm. We did it for about a decade. And so I spent a lot of time fighting. When I started Scoutcoms, the unemployment rate for global war and terror veterans was 6.5% and higher. Some young veterans, the unemployment rate was as high as 8 to 10%. It was nuts. On top of that, we had a huge a suicide crisis, mental health crisis. Those early days, we were still making that transition to recognizing PTSD and all the other things, and we just weren't there, and we worked hard. Professionals worked hard. VSOs, Veteran Service Organizations, worked hard. Allies in Congress worked hard to reduce the stigma, to roll back things like bad paper discharges, and for scene setting for those nursing in the military. What happens often is if you've got PTSD, like I did. One of the things we often joke that the only person in danger for somebody who has PTSD is the person with the PTSD. You're very self-destructive. There's self-harm, addiction issues. There's a mentality with people with severe PTSD, especially survivor's guilt, which we now recognize as a type of PTSD. That they're like, why am I alive and somebody else isn't, right? And
Hmm.
so how does that manifest? Well, it manifests in misbehavior in the military. It manifests in misbehavior in your marriage. It manifests in drinking or making mistakes, DUIs. So, but the army and the military, what would they do is they would say, "Oh, you're a bad soldier. So they would chapter what we call chapter them, which is a way to get you out of the army. They chapter them, get rid of them. And so people who are actually suffering from debilitating traumatic brain injuries or PTSD were just kicked out of the army. And the thing is, if you get kicked out of the army with an other than honorable discharge, a dishonorable discharge, you are not a veteran in the eyes of the law. You do not qualify for any veterans care. You do not qualify for any of your veterans benefits. You can't go to the VA because you're not a veteran. You did not serve honorably. And what that means then is the people who probably were misbehaving or acting out because of the mental health injuries were the people not getting treatment for it and committing
Hmm.
suicide. So what makes me mad is to hear the same people who are doing push-ups. I'm doing 22 push-ups for veteran suicide are the same people saying, yeah, fuck these deadbeats, kick them out of the army. So what's happened is last week, very quietly, one of the biggest changes we got that that not we, I had nothing to do with it, but that the advocates got implemented was that as part of your out processing of the military, when you left the military, like me when I retired twice, because again, I do think it takes me several times to quit things. So I quit the army twice. The first one didn't stick. But when you get out, you do physicals, see what your injuries are. I
Hmm.
had bad knees, I had a bad back, I had, that hopefully translates to your VA disability. And then you get a mental health exam now. That was the biggest change. You actually go see a psychiatrist or psychologist, and you talk about the things they know what to ask. They know the questions to ask. Have you had trauma? Did you deploy? Were you
I
ever
had
in a
that
car,
when
in
I
an
got out.
accident? Okay,
It
so I
was
did.
useful. It
I
was
got out.
helpful.
I got out in 2010. It wasn't a thing then. And it is helpful, right? Because they know what the questions to ask, right? Like,
Hmm.
and it's not just combat. Let's face it. I lost more men as an Army aviator in peacetime training accidents than I did in combat. I had 6 guys die in peacetime training accidents. I had 2 of my men die in combat. So that's aviation. They don't give aviators extra money because they're cool to pay for sunglasses. It's because it's fucking dangerous,
Yep.
Yeah.
and people die. So yeah, look, 8% of the people with PTSD are veterans. That's it. The other 92% are civilians. Okay. So again, PTSD isn't just from going to combat. So having said all that, the very quietly last week, the Secretary of the Army put out a memo that simply said that for those being chaptered out under chapters 10, 13, and 14, getting kicked out for misconduct, the out processing mental health exam is waived unless they've deployed in the last 2 years or have reported sexual assault or traumatic brain injury. So
But you don't
you
report those things as often. Like people don't talk about them as often.
No.
Right. And how many TBIs are completely undiagnosed? You're an artilleryman. Boom, boom, boom.
Hmm.
Every fucking day for 8 years. That's TBI. It rattles your brain. And eventually that's what it's the football injuries are. It's the repeated
Hmm.
injuries, right? It never gets diagnosed till maybe it doesn't even matter. My PTSD didn't really come to a head until 8 years after I got out when I had a
Yeah.
complete mental collapse. My
Yeah.
wife said, peace, dude, I'm out. Right. I mean, that's when things fell. It was 8 years after I was retired. And so I didn't even get disability for PTSD till last year, 14 years after I retired from the army. And
Yeah.
so to just say, fuck these guys, unless you had been to combat, unless you were reportedly, and look, we all know that 98% of military sexual assaults are not reported
Hmm.
Yep.
ever. How many
Yep.
of them are men? Right? I
Most of
mean,
them are
that's
men on
most of
men.
them are men. That people don't realize that most military sexual, not most, I believe a large majority of military sexual assaults are men who refuse to report that shit. They're not going to
Oh
report that.
God, yeah. No.
So again and again. So now what they've basically done is they've put, in my opinion, what I wrote in the piece is they've re-stigmatized mental health injuries. They put it back in the closet again. That guys won't
Hmm.
admit it. And then there's going to be, so we're going to have a whole new generation of veterans with bad conduct discharges or other than honorable discharges who aren't considered veterans, who are going to have untreated mental health problems and are going to commit suicide. And the same motherfuckers cheering on Trump and cheering on these kind of changes were the same ones in 5 years lamenting the suicide crisis of mental health. And oh, it's Biden's fault or Obama's fault. It's like, no, you did this. You
Yeah.
did this because you decided kicking people out fast was more important than taking care of them before they transition on the military. And that's the whole point of this. And I did tie it to the transgender. And that's the other piece of the puzzle. They made it for 1 year. Why? Why just 1 year? Why would he not make it permanent? Now, he could extend it, he says in there. So it may just
Yeah.
be the opening round. But I just thought it caught even my friend who sent to me, who is a psychologist in the military, she said to me, it caught my eye more than hers. That why 1 year? Well, as we know, they're trying to kick all the transgender service members out. They're trying to kick all of these people out. The bad, they're getting rid of women in leadership positions. This just opens the
Hmm.
door. So now a company commander, if they've got a problematic troop, whatever it may be, late for formation every day for a week. Well, obviously they're not fitting in. We're gonna chapter them out. It's made it easier to just get rid of people. Which is
Yeah.
where we were. This is where we were 15, 20 years ago, which led to the suicide and unemployment crisis. So
Right.
I don't know. I don't want to predict the future, but I do fear that we're going to be right back where we were 15 years ago with hundreds and thousands or thousands of veterans out of work, thousands of veterans in a mental health crisis, thousands of veterans in suicide crisis, all for the convenience of booting them out faster so they can get their alpha male military. So yeah,
They're
But
high
I'm
but
pissed.
C
I'm
military.
pissed. Yeah, right.
but
So
as you and I both know, like those people don't join because at the heart
right,
of it, they're punks. Like, and if they
right,
do, they get found out pretty quick because
right.
anybody that's done any kind of service, it's about the unit, it's about your team, you know. And
Yep.
when you really care about the people around you, it's like this alpha male crap goes out the window, right? Because those people are the worst people to be in your team, in your unit, or to
Right.
have command over you, you know. And it's tragic because it leads to good people getting out of the service that are going through a rough patch that need help. I mean, and it's this kind of stuff that will, especially with more awareness that we have with mental health, it's going to keep people away from the service where we're already having problems with retention numbers. We're already having problems with recruitment numbers. People are going to say, I'm not going into that crap. You
Well,
know?
you guys know that only one third of Americans are even qualified to serve in the military. One third of it's been codified in multiple studies. Less than a third of young Americans, and by the way, we're talking young Americans. You very rarely come in at 40. Okay, you can, whatever. I don't know,
Hmm.
but one third of Americans can join. Okay, that's not because and by the way, the reason is health problems, the obesity epidemic, drugs, tattoos are not as big a deal as they used to be. But whatever the issues, lack of education, autism, you name it, right? ADHD is a disqualifier, believe it or not, right? If you took medicine for ADHD, believe it or not, you're not qualified to serve. Go crazy. Now they can actually, and then in the last 2 years, they implemented a new system that could go through your medical records automatically. You can scan your medical records. By the way, Palantir's got nothing on that. And so they're already disqualifying people. Like I would not, let's be honest, I would not have gotten into West Point because I had knee injuries as a young hockey player and swimmer. And when I went for my physical, the guy bent my knee, was yanking on it. And he was like, "This doesn't hurt. You got a lot of movement." Like, no, I'm fine. Tear. And, you're like, "Oh, it's great. I'm good." And, oh, fuck, it hurt like crazy. But I was able to bullshit my way through it. Nowadays, they catch that stuff in your medical records
Hmm.
automatically. You can't get. So we've actually reduced the pool of qualified people who could serve. So now they want to get rid of women. Okay, they've said that. Hegseth just retweeted a tweet from his pastor saying women, a lot of people talked about the part of that interview with Doug Wilson where he said women shouldn't vote. But what they missed was the part where he said women should not be in leadership positions. We have seen Hegseth fire multiple women general officers with no reasoning whatsoever. He hasn't said why he's firing them. I don't care what you say. The superintendent of the Navy, Naval Academy is doing a great job. Admiral in charge of the Navy is doing fine. All these lies about their reputation is not true. So everybody missed the part where he believes that women shouldn't be in leadership positions.
Yeah.
And so you're right, Frederick. Less people can serve. and now they're making
Hmm.
them less and less. And this is the other thing, you guys know this too. This is going to shock people who watch this show. Did you know that liberals join the military? I know it's
Oh,
crazy.
holy shit! Really?
I know,
That
right? I mean,
we love our country and we want to
who would
serve.
have thought? Like
Who'd
liberals
have?
join the military? I
Yeah,
mean,
who'd
oh
have
my
thunk it?
God. Yeah, kids that go to college will actually go in the military. I mean, I
It's
who would
almost
have
like a
thought?
requirement to be an officer is you have to go to college.
Well, those
What?
hotbeds of literal
Oh
thought,
yeah, that
and
liberal
What?
indoctrination train.
right, they're shocked and discovered that 50% of the military is actually Democrats. What?
Yeah.
No, that's not true. 60,
No, it
40. I don't
can't be
care.
true.
Making a okay. Well, 40% are. Oh, that's crazy. What? You can't afford to lose that 40%.
No,
And
you can't.
so to me, I watched John Oliver last night because I always watch John Oliver, and he was doing the piece on ICE and the detentions, and his opening point was that their numbers are bullshit. There's not as many illegal immigrants, or excuse me, undocumented immigrants as they say there is. So when they say they're going to arrest 3,000 a day because there's 20 million that Joe Biden let in, they can't arrest 3,000 a day because there isn't 3,000 a day available to be arrested. So that's why they're
No.
raiding immigration courts. That's why they're raiding Home Depots. That's why they're taking people who did the process. And it's the same way with this. It sounds good that there's all these Americans who just didn't join the military because of the wokeism, but there's no studies to back that. So while they're kicking these guys out who are perfectly capable but are sick of the shit, there's not going to be backup. And so they're touting how they're recruiting one. Yeah, they'll be in spike, but they're going to run out. They're going to run out. And I tell you, man,
And they're not
it's
going to
it's
make
it's a
good
cess spiral.
soldiers.
No,
They're
And
not.
no,
They're like I was. I was in for 4 years. I went to Afghanistan in 2013, and I got out as an E5 as a sergeant.
right,
And one of the things that I found out really quickly, like Fred was saying, is once you get into the military, it's not about you. Like
right.
you are
no,
just a piece. The cool thing about our military is everybody knows the command structure and everybody knows the mission because we're command driven and we can do combat missions without the officers. Like every person knows what to do. And yet here we are. It's going to be that same repeat of like the beginning of the Afghanistan war
Yep,
is we're going to hire a bunch of people that aren't qualified to do the jobs, who are really
right,
bad at them. They're going to get promoted. They're going to push down sexual assault,
yep,
um, like reporting. They're going to keep, like you said, keep kicking women out. We talked to Bobby Jones last week about that, and he is
yep.
mad. I'd love to get the two of you on a show together because that
Yeah,
would
no,
be
we
a
haven't because we run the same circles. I don't know why. He's at
yeah. I
VFRL
mean,
now.
I'll
I used to
get
work
the
with
two of you on a
VFRL.
show.
I
We're gonna
need
do.
to.
We'll
Mhm.
get a larger vet talk going with a couple of us because I think there's a lot of anger going around that needs to be focused. And because I think you're right, is like everybody missed the key points that like they hid all of these changes behind other malicious acts that they're
Yeah,
doing. Like the mental
yeah,
health stuff they hid behind targeting trans service members, and they're pitting us against each other to try and make the veteran community hate each other.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on trying to like go against that, and how can we keep helping?
Well, that's the big thing I say. As I guess I've been fortunate to be start given. I've been really invited to give speeches here in Missouri. I live in Missouri's second congressional district, which is St. Louis County and beyond. And I've had the opportunity to come speak, have to speak to some of the Democratic clubs and other organizations, some town halls. And I do think, and I spoke at Unite for Veterans in DC. And one of the things I use constantly right now is that we know what they're doing. They want us to fight each other. They want us to beat each other's throats. They throw us the red meat about the culture, and people call it the culture wars, but I think we're so far beyond culture wars now. We're talking about a war on our nation. But like it's a good example is when I'll post about let's talk about DC, right? It's like
Yeah.
will come at me. Well, it is crime ridden hellhole. Like, are you fucking? I was just there a month ago. It was awesome. I felt safer in DC than I do. It's like it is just it's ridiculous. And so they want us to fight that. The big fight right now, I think, is a perfect example is the Texas issue, the redistricting in Texas. And I don't call it the Texas gerrymandering because gerrymandering is a tool. What they're using,
Yes.
it's kind of like saying this is the Texas shovel fight. No, they're just, it's not a shovel fight, it's a fucking war. And so what they're doing is a mid-decade redistricting because Donald Trump demanded 5 more seats. This isn't about gerrymandering. So what they've got, the talking point is, oh, have you seen California? We've only got 35% of the positions there. This is you guys, but you Democrats have been gerrymandering for years. Like, this isn't about gerrymandering. I'm against that too, by the way, just like most Americans. Matter of fact, 80% of Democrats are against gerrymandering. 56% of Republicans are against gerrymandering. But the point is, this is about gerrymandering. This is about the president of the United States said, give me 5 more seats before the next election,
Yeah.
mid-decade,
Hmm.
because I want to save my ass because he knows he's going to be impeached. And he knows a House that is a Democrat is going to make stop his entire agenda in the tracks, actually do oversight, which they don't do now. And so this has nothing to do with gerrymandering. This has everything to do with theft. This is theft. This is stealing
Yes.
election on a grand scale. And so while we are all arguing, oh, the Democrats gerrymander, oh yeah, well, we don't do it as bad as you do, they're fucking laughing because they've got us at each other's throats over the fucking issue that isn't the real issue.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say, look, we're going to have to figure out a way. And look, I'm hard. People come at me in my Twitter. I tell them the f off and all that kind of stuff. I But in the end, we're going to have to figure out. Both sides are going to figure out that this has nothing to do with the partisan thing. It is the rich getting richer. My elected representative is a woman named Ann Wagner. She's been in Missouri's second district for 13 years, and she's held exactly 0 open town halls. And in that 13 years, it is our understanding, I have to confirm it, that she's tripled her net worth.
Oh.
And that she, according to reports in the media, she made $3.7 million in May alone in the stock market. And according to a report from another organization, I can pull it up, they listed the top members of the Senate and the House by increasing their portfolios in 2024. And everybody likes to beat up on Nancy Pelosi getting rich. Nancy Pelosi was number 10 on that list. Number 11 was my House representative, Ann Wagner, right behind her. So while Trump's saying that Nancy Pelosi should be investigated for insider trading, my elected representative was right next to her on the list of making the most money last year. Oddly, she sits on the Financial Services Committee. Isn't that weird? So,
Interesting.
How
so
about that?
she absolutely adores the idea that out here in our district, which is very not it's reddish, it's more purple than it used to be, but she loves the idea we're going to fight over shit like culture wars or transgender sports
Hmm.
or whatever stupid issue abortion, because she is getting fucking rich. And so is Trump. And so is this CBO just came out with a report this week that shows that this big, beautiful bill is the largest transfer of wealth in American history.
Yeah.
And so at some point, enough of us need to wake up and say, you know, this is nothing to do with party. This has everything to do with the rich being richer and the poor being poorer, and playing us against each other so we look down on those people because maybe someday I'll be one of those rich people. And I'm here to tell you, none of us, if you're watching this show or one of us hosts this show, I'm gonna fucking tell you, dirty. You don't want to hear this. You are not gonna be a fucking billionaire. Okay?
No.
Ever,
No.
ever, 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 ever. I'm sorry that the chances of anyone watching this show and someone it ever being a billionaire is 0. I'm not talking 0.00099.
Yeah.
It's fucking
Yeah.
0. Okay. And so the idea that we're gonna fucking fight for billionaires to get a tax break here in Missouri, another good example, the governor Kehoe, Republican, just line item vetoed a $300 million expansion of Lambert St. Louis Airport, which we desperately need. There was
Yeah.
just a convention. I don't know if you guys saw the news. There was
Yep.
a religious convention here, and they all left at the same time to go to the Southwest Terminal. And the line for an airport terminal was down the ramp all the way to the highway. Okay, we need another terminal for that airport. He vetoed that $380 million project, but at the same time signed a bill getting rid of the capital gains tax, which is going to cost the state over $300 million. Right. You get it.
Why? What a
Capital gains
fucking
tax.
joke.
So Missouri no longer has a capital gains tax, which is going to affect about 300 people,
What?
a couple
Yeah, I
of
was gonna
thousand
say
people,
like
right?
20, 30 people.
Several thousand people, whatever, but going to cost the state $300,000 a year. At the same time, a public works project we desperately needed in the largest city in the state was axed because you just don't have the money. And that's the kind of shit that makes me crazy. It is the transfer of public wealth to private hands. And
What?
to me, I've had this real, God, I sound like a communist.
I love it.
I sound like a
We just
radical.
need a hammer and sickle behind
If
you.
I was a communist, it would be going private wealth to the government. But what I'm seeing instead is this is just, I've become a radical in the idea that what these people really want, you guys, is nothing public. Okay, they want
Yeah.
public parks to be privately owned. They want public services to be privately owned. They want the VA to be privately owned, and
They
that's
want
the real
policing to
issue.
be privately owned.
Privately owned, military privately owned, basically.
Yep.
Contracted out. NASA privately owned. The mission of the Trump administration, the Republican Party today, is to transfer all public good to private hands to be
Mhm.
profited upon, and the people who are going to profit aren't us.
No, they're
I
yeah.
ranted. I did a rant. Jesus, I'm
They
sorry.
turn
No. It's
they've turned government from a service
yeah.
to a profit industry. Like
Right.
I think the biggest thing that the Republican Party has done is lie to the people and tell Americans that government is a business and
Right.
not a service.
Right.
And it's bad. Government is
Yeah.
bad.
And
Right.
government is a bad business too. Like
It
we
is.
have to take this business away and hand it to other people who are smarter. But government's a service. Like the military is a service. The police departments are services. Your firefighters are serving your community, your EMTs.
Yes.
Your roads are services. Like
Right.
I think people
The
forget like
Postal Service.
everything.
Well,
Yeah.
and
Best example is the Postal Service, right?
Yeah.
They're absolutely trying to privatize the Postal Service. It's in the fucking name. And
Yeah.
it's in the Constitution, okay? Alexander Hamilton, he made the Postal Service.
Yeah.
And they want to privatize it. It was never meant to be a profit thing. It was never meant to be self-sustaining because we can't, because you're never going to make a profit sending shit to bum
To everybody.
bum F
Right.
South Dakota. It
Yeah.
was never meant to be it's a postal. It's in the
service.
fucking name.
It's
Service.
Yeah.
it's a cost
It's like
of something we need.
Right.
To your point, like talking about the terminal and talking about eliminating the capital gains tax in Missouri, you see it's how it's addressed to us.
Yeah.
Right? It's how it's like you always see this in corporate media. It's like, oh well, how are Democrats going to afford this? How is Joe Biden going to afford soft infrastructure and elder care? How are they going to afford this? And it's, well, they're going to have to cut here. Oh, we're going to have to save cost here. It's never, we could raise revenue by raising taxes on the rich that are already getting more than a break.
Right.
Because we as middle class, lower class, and working class, we pay more of our percentage in income than they do.
Yep.
And that's never brought up. It's never like, that's never a solution. It's never like it's well, we got to cut costs. It's like, well, a business that constantly cuts costs is out of business. You got to learn how you raise revenue.
You grow.
Like,
it's about growth.
Okay.
Yeah, you get any business that focuses on cost cutting versus growth, revenue growth is a failing business, right? That's the whole issue, or a failing market. Well, they haven't. It's always about. It's funny you say, because my own fiance talk this all the time. That it used to be about growth. The Republican Party was about growth. Now they're about cut. Everything's about cut. Everything's about getting rid of things. But you have to see the ulterior motive. Again, the ulterior motive is always going to be, again, transferring that wealth to someone else. It's not it is about transfer of wealth. And that's the part we all keep missing, is that this is about giving more. Look, Elon Musk didn't suddenly care about government. Elon Musk suddenly cared about fucking making more money. That's all he'll ever care about. There's just never going to be enough. Elon Musk will never be satisfied having enough money. It's not a thing. It's not his psyche. He will never have enough money, and neither will Ackerman or these other fucking assholes who support this administration, because it's just about accumulating more. Jeff, I mean, what I always get, you guys, God, I do sound like a radical. Is the same weekend the Senate was debating cutting healthcare from 17 million Americans and cutting SNAP benefits from another 6 million Americans, Jeff Bezos had his $56 million wedding in Venice. It was just at least during the last Gilded Age, they kind of hid behind their mansions, gates, and these guys are rubbing it in our fucking faces right on Instagram every day. Saying, hey, fuck you. What are you going to do about it? They know. And by the way, you idiots are going to fight each other anyway. So have at it. It's like, it's while people are arguing about what Kim Kardashian should have worn at the wedding, I'm sitting back going, "What the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
Why
is
are
she
these
actually the
why are these
best?"
people on my TV? Like,
what
What?
and it
Maybe
was
they
a
should practice.
distraction.
Right.
this is
And it
what
was a
kills me.
distraction from the bill.
It's bait and
Yeah.
switch.
Well, this is what kills me, and this is where it's like, and I've said this before. It's like, you say I sound like a radical, and I've said this too, and we're not in the sense of, if you go back to the 50s and 60s, Henry Ford, like the third or whatever, Ford the third, like all these guys, they were still rich, they still lived in the biggest house. It just wasn't this insanity of wealth, right? You still had his worker, like Ford
Yeah.
plant workers still could afford a home.
Right.
It wasn't as lavish as the
Don't you remember
boss,
his
but it's
rule?
like,
No, he had a rule. Henry Ford had a rule. He goes, "I want to pay my workers well enough they can afford to buy our cars."
right. And
Right.
so
And
it's like, you send them to a good public school. It's like, is it the best? And no, it's not as good as the private ones, but it's still a good education,
right.
because it's like, people might ask me, like, well, you don't have kids, Fred. Why would you support teachers getting paid more, having better schools?
Right.
I don't want to live in
It's
a
a care.
society of idiots.
Right. I don't want to live
Like,
in yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
Our country's
understand when
future
people
depends
are
on it.
better educated and better
Mhm.
informed, and we have better roads and better schools and better healthcare outcomes. The world I live in is better. So it's this whole notion of enlightened self-interest has been abandoned in favor of, well, I guess we got to let the rich get even more richer. It's like,
Right. I had a conversation. My son works, I won't name him, but my son works for a big corporation, and his wife works for the same corporation. They're doing pretty well. 32 years old, they have one kid. And I was talking to him about politics, which we rarely do. He's not a politics guy like me. And we were talking, and we're talking about this situation, this accumulating wealth, and the fact that they are struggling to get out of their starter home to have a bigger home to have a kid. They simply can't. It's not in any wealth or range. The gap right now, it's at a record high, 57% gap of affordability versus availability. And he said, "Well, they're doing, Dad. They're training us to be share. Uh, our job is to increase shareholder value."
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And I thought to myself, what are we doing? I'll be 60 in, oh Jesus, 3 weeks. Oh my God.
You're looking good for
Fuck.
nearly there,
Yeah,
Fred.
you look at me about my age, bro.
60. So what are we doing, man? I'm the top age of Gen X, and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Why is my third-year-old figured out that his job is to increase shareholder value? That's not to be well off, not to,
Hmm.
he knows his corporation's view of him as an employee is nothing more than shareholder value. That he'll be caught tomorrow if it means that they can
Yeah.
do a dividend, that the CEO can get our 5 million bonus. They know that the pay gap's never been bigger in the history of America. And at one, I mean, what are we doing as Americans and as a generation of X and Boomer and below us, senior millennial? What are we doing that the generations following us have simply given up on the American dream? They don't
Hmm.
believe there is no American dream. My 27-year-old son and I just went on vacation. He convinced he will never own a home. He goes, "Dad, I don't dream of owning a home because I know I will never be able to afford owning a home in his chosen profession, which I won't get into." But what the fuck am I doing? I mean, my
Yeah.
father was a World War II veteran. He went to college. He was the first guy to college in his family on the GI Bill. He had a home because of because of the veteran home loans in a very good neighborhood of St. Louis, Missouri, a golf course neighborhood called Greenbrier. And all four of his kids went to college because you know why? It was never an option. Three of them went to the University of Missouri. This dumbass went to West Point. And I got, I was a rebel. I rebelled. I went to West Point.
That's a good
And
school
but
to rebel to go to.
it worked pretty
Yeah.
good. Yeah, it actually worked out real well. I tried to quit, but they wouldn't let me. I always joked I planned on quitting every semester, and then I graduated. Oh shit, I'm done. That was easy. But again, I don't see my kids don't have that dream. I
Yeah.
couldn't tell my kids all four of you are going to college. You're going to do these things, and that somewhere we went wrong. I mean, I hate to say it, but somewhere along the line, and and now the data tells us Reagan and trickle down economics and taking over school, making school so expensive that everybody has to get loans now, and making school home education loans a profit center. I mean, if you think about all the things in the last 30 years that have become profit centers, that's why these kids in the next generation can't see a future where they are well off. But good news, the billionaires are making more money, and
Yeah.
yeah, I am becoming radicalized by my children. They're very proud of the fact. My son likes to boast he made me a liberal. But I look at them, I look at my kids. My youngest daughter's got chronic health conditions. It's a constant battle for
Mhm.
healthcare, constant battle for health insurance to cover her as an entrepreneur. It's just, what are we fucking doing? You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw this. I worked in the private sector, so I saw this in aviation, where it starts with the lean and mean concept, where it's like you're trying to cut staffing to where it's like, oh, we're going to make these people do more and more work, and at first it's like you understand why they're doing it, because union jobs, after a while it's like they're like, oh well, you need 8 people to do this job. Yeah, you really only need 6, right?
Right.
And so, but then, they're like, well, we could technically on these days do it with 4. It's like, well, you can do it with 4.5. I'm like, how the hell do I do 0.5 of a person? You know, I can't do it with 0.5 of a person. So what that means is you're going to give me 4, right?
Right.
And so what happens is now you've lowered it to that, and so you get this. You're overworking these guys. You're
Yeah.
doing it day after day, and they're like, but yeah, look, you're doing it. But yeah, injuries are going up,
Yeah.
accidents are going up, like all these poor metrics are going up. And then it's like, well, I saw it with American Airlines, when it's like, well, we're going to cut the baggage service office. So what does that mean for customers, right? Your
Right.
bag's missing. Well, it's been to a third party now, who doesn't have the authority to do things like give you a refund on your bag fee. They have to call a manager like me to come down and talk to you. And now I no longer have the authority to go, hey, we're sorry about that. Here's your $50 back. We're going to get this to you, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, well, you could go online and you can fill out a form, and maybe, after 6 months, they'll approve it, you know. And so you're seeing that again because of this profit driven kind of thing across all these sectors. And each quarter, each year, people are trying to find little more ways to make more and more shareholder value, but it's like there's nothing left. The
Yep.
carcass
Mhm.
is there's no meat left on the carcass, man.
Yep.
It's like at some point it became less about, and it goes back to Jack Welch, right? If you read about Jack Welch and taking over GE, he turned General Electric into basically a finance company,
Right.
right?
Right.
It became less about making great home appliances, and somehow it's turned into a bank, even though
Right.
it's still GE.
Right. No.
And it's
Yeah.
yeah, and now that it's damn near bankrupted the
Remember the
company.
story of McDonald's?
Yeah,
McDonald's exploded in growth because they figured out they were a real estate company.
right. Not
Yeah.
I mean,
making great
if you watch
burgers.
that show, that wasn't the founder or whatever it was.
Yep,
It was
it's
it was
like
the realization that it wasn't the burgers, it was the land that made the profit center for them,
yep.
and
It's like
owning
you
the
make your
land
money off
that
the
the franchisee had.
franchisees.
Right,
Let
had to
them,
buy the land. Right,
there
they're
you go.
based.
And
They're based a real estate company. That people pay them real estate. That's not.
yeah,
It's yeah.
it's
But
It's
why all those businesses like Toys R Us went out of business because they
right.
sold to themselves and they purchased themselves out of
Right.
existence. We've gone a little afield on this one because I think it's good that we talk about
We turn into a radical.
radical communism here on this show today.
Yeah. There you go.
Just non-redistribution of
I
wealth into the government. I want redistribution of wealth back to us,
Yeah.
if we
Well, it
can.
goes back to the services of veterans, though. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think when we start talking about it, circling all the way back to the VA, what they're doing now, what they're doing to the VA is dismantling it. That's
Hmm.
the thing.
And
Now they learned the
privatizing it.
right. They learned in the first go around. They couldn't just because they tried with the Community Care Act and whatever it calls the Choice Act. But the snake's freaking people out. By the way, Nate.
I know. I
is
know.
that actual snake?
Just throwing that out
Morgan's
there.
one of my good
You could get
friends.
a fucking Labrador Retriever now,
Is
but here
that
we are.
is that an actual snake?
But yeah,
Yeah, man.
we
He's an actual
digress.
snake.
I
This
don't
is
know, man.
Bucky the Slither Soldier Barnes. For anyone who wants to know, he's a real snake. He's pretty awesome.
Don't like snakes. I'm anti-snake. You
I'm
know
I'm,
why?
I'm an
I
Indiana.
made it. You guys,
I'm
I
with
made it.
Indiana Jones on this.
No, I am. I'm the same way. I got Desert Shield war story. I got to tell a war story. So I go to
Yes.
war as an Aero Scout pilot with Apaches, right? And we go. We fought the last battle of Desert Storm, literally on the causeway there. Ramallah Causeway battle. Look it up. It's famous. Apaches blowing shit up. It was great. Got shot at by my own fucking Apache one time when the rockets went off by accident. Almost took me out. Survive the entire war, go back across the border. We land in Saudi Arabia. We're getting up early to go to, well, shoot all our ammo off. I open the tent at 5 a.m. and there's a goddamn desert sand viper curled up right in the door of our tent. And I almost stepped in the snake. I'm like, God damn it, to survive 6 months in this war and then to get bit by a snake on my last day in the desert. So anyway, I hate snakes. But back to the topic at hand. Yeah. So they can't just do it openly this time. So what they're doing is dismantling it, and they're doing that by undermining the healthcare system. They fired doctors. They're saying they're not firing doctors, but they are. They're hemorrhaging doctors and nurses,
Yeah.
and that's causing a wait list to develop of healthcare points. Notice
Mhm.
how Doug Collins only talks about how they've shortened the wait list for benefits, which went up because the PACT Act that was already on its way down when he took office. He basically he's riding a sled down a hill and taking credit for it. He
Yeah.
jumped on he jumped on halfway down the hill. But what he never ever talks about, is wait time for healthcare appointments, because we know from insiders it's skyrocketing, and they're covering it up. They're covering
We
up the
from
fact that more
experience.
veterans. Right. My own son-in-law went to the VA, got canceled twice for his appointments. Told he didn't have an appointment. When he showed the lady the email saying he had one, she goes, "Oh no, there's no appointment system." Does this reek of the Phoenix scandal that got Shinseki fired, where they were gaming the system to just hide, had a second set of books? The same thing is happening because they are not. So what's happening is they're gonna collapse the system till, and then they're gonna say, "Oh, we tried to
Doesn't
reform it,
work.
but
We
we
got to
couldn't."
let
Yeah.
Yeah,
business run it.
we look what we
Yeah.
did. We worked so hard to fix it when we know that this year they budgeted more money for the choice for community care than they did for in-house healthcare. So
Yeah.
it's not about what they say; it's about what they vote on. They voted to reduce the amount of healthcare inside and increase the amount of healthcare outside. At the same time, he put out a memo last week extending outside care to a full year before review. So guess what? Now you got a veteran. He goes on the community, which should just be for one appointment, for surgery, for a specialist. No, they're going to outsource them to local healthcare for a year. Now, if you're a veteran, you like your doctor, you've been seeing him every month for a year, every 2 months for a year, are you going to be happy to go back into the VA again? No. The whole point is to make veterans get private healthcare and then privatize the fuck out of it. That's what they're doing. They just can't say it. But here's the problem. The problem is veterans are going to get sick and die. In the meantime, it's going to take people are going to not get surgeries. Older veterans who need surgeries won't. This is what happened to the Phoenix healthcare scandal. If you guys remember, when they discovered there
Yep.
was two sets of books, remember they showed that some veterans that didn't get surgery on time and died. They're
And I
hiding
can
that right now.
I can tell you from my experience, from my personal experience at the VA, because I'm one of those folks. Like I had a VA doctor almost 7 months ago now.
Yeah,
When I get to my appointment on the 11th of September, it'll be just about 7 months that I'm out of a primary care doctor at the VA. He
yeah,
left. My doctor left because it wasn't worth being there anymore because they were trying to push him out and he saw all the writing on the wall. Then I got an appointment and I had to, my therapist was like, "You're probably not going to get a new primary care doctor." He even said it. He's like, "Then you're going to be lucky if you get one." Well, I called and got myself a primary care doctor who canceled my appointment the day of the appointment. And now I'm waiting another couple months and I'm 2 years, almost over 2.5 years now into a fibromyalgia diagnosis. And I don't have a primary care doctor anymore.
Jesus.
And that's
Yeah,
where symptoms can change, like, and
right.
they're trying, and if I get my appointment, they've offered me sooner appointments, but every time I click on the link it's always, "Oh, somebody else has already taken that appointment," which means that appointment was never really there, like.
Right.
I,
Right.
I've
And
had I've
that's,
I've had four. I'm at Rocky Mountain Regional in Denver, pretty big facility. I've had four primary care doctors in 5 years.
yeah.
Four. Every time I go for my physical, and luckily I'm in pretty good health, except for some bad knees and joints and everything else. I always have a different primary care doctor. They're like, "Who was your last one?" I'm like, "I have no idea at this point." like just you have to check records,
Yeah.
because it's always somebody who's doing the residency, or like they've got like, yeah, I might see you, but I probably won't. You'll be with a new one. I'm like, yep, all right, no problem. I just just give me my blood work and everything else, and we'll keep it moving. Yeah, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
And it's on
because there's
purpose.
no
I mean,
incentive for these
what's
folks
sad
to
is it's on
stay.
purpose. They're not
Yeah.
they're not trying to make it better. They're trying to make it miserable, and that's the point, And I
Mhm.
think too many people are missing that point, that
Yep.
this is all purposeful. That the lies are just that, they are lies, if we got to stop believing the lies. So I think we're
Yeah.
at an hour.
Yeah, and we're just at an hour. And I actually have somewhere to go here soon.
Me too.
I go to group therapy.
I got to
So
do
if
my
you
due
guys go to
diligence.
group therapy
I love
or
it.
don't, go to a therapy if you can afford it. Like mine is through the VA. Like
There
I
you go.
love it. It's one of the best services that I've ever had, and it's the reason I'm still here. Like the VA mental health services are the reason I'm still here and
I
can
love it.
process mental health and can actually function as an
Same.
adult.
Same.
And they're the reason I made it through crises. So
Same.
everything that Fred Wellman is talking about with us today is incredibly important. And I know we went a little afield on the money thing, but it's important because they're stealing all our fucking money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're moving it elsewhere, and they're calling it cost savings, but it's not. It's
No.
theft.
Yep.
And it was incredibly wonderful to have you with us today and to be able to talk about this, Fred. Hopefully, we can have you back again here soon. Um, I'd love to do some more work with you. We've got a big thing coming up on Saturday that I want to plug real quick before we let Fred plug himself. Fred Pogue and I, with Lawrence Winterman, are going to be doing a huge 24-hour event
Wow.
on a new channel that we're putting together. Do you want me to say the name, Fred?
Go
Banner
for
and
it.
backbone.
Banner and Backbone.
Oh, cool.
We're putting together a new publication called Banner and Backbone that's focusing on civil engagement and civil activity.
Love it.
That's easy to understand. It's going to be a modernization of some of our founding documents, and a chance for discussion and debate that we've lost on the progressive side without
No
Love it.
shitty
snakes.
ideas.
No snakes.
And no thanks.
No snakes. There's no
No
snakes, Nick.
snakes. Nah,
Yeah, no
man, he's got
snakes.
to
Yeah.
have an opinion
No.
too. Um,
Uh-uh.
but I want to let Fred Wellman give himself a closeout and plug before we end. Fred is an incredible guest with us, host on Midas Touch. He has his On Democracy show. He does hot seats. He does Too Late to Cancel. I watch Fred all the time. If you couldn't tell,
Oh,
Fred is one of
sorry.
my favorites,
Mm,
because he's got some great things to say.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Every Friday night
yeah.
on the Midas Touch Network, on Democracy with FP Wellman. Friday night 7, every week on the Midas Touch Network, we talk about the threats to our democracy, and with movers and shakers and elected officials and others. Too Late to Cancel is a Sunday show. There's some changes coming. I hate to break it to you,
Oh,
but I can tell you why later. I'll tell you why later. You'll know. And then, of
yeah.
course, In the Hot Seat, I'm getting ready to record a new In the Hot Seat with another great candidate for Senate. I've got a governor candidate coming up. I got a couple of congressional hot seats coming up. So those are periodic shows, about 15 minutes on the Midas Touch Network, called In the Hot Seat. You'll see them on the FP Wellman playlist on the Midas Touch Network. 5.7 million subscribers now. It's hard to believe how much it's grown
Love
in
it.
3 years. Yeah, I think when I joined, I think we had 1.3 when I joined. It's just crazy in 3 years. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can find, of course, my Substack, fpwellman.substack.com. Just like I said, FP Wellman. I'm FP Wellman everywhere, either FP Wellman official or just FP Wellman. You'll find me.
And
But
we'll
I really
even show
appreciate the
your pretty
chance.
picture.
Look at that.
Yeah,
That's
there it is.
right here in my office. Yeah, it's not. That's like, I got to update it, but I haven't changed much. I looked.
It's a good
So,
picture of you, Fred.
thank you. I appreciate it.
And so thank you, Fred, for joining us. Thanks, Fred Pogue, for being my co-host
Yeah.
today on this Vet Talk. As always, everyone, let's stop being sick of this shit and let's start doing it. Because we got a lot to do and very little time to do it in. So stick around for the next 2 minutes if you want. We're going to do some closeout music for the show for y'all. It's an original composition that I wrote. And so I'm just trying to get some of my music out there too and give a little bit of extra joy back into people's days. So hope everyone enjoyed the show. We'll see y'all later. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one.